All right, hello everybody on the Facebook Live. Thank you for tuning in. We will go live on the radio at 4 o'clock. So if you want to tune in to the broadcast, which I recommend, you can do that by going to 93.9 FM if you're in Lexington, or you can go to the Radio Lex app. Or not the app. I'm sorry, it's the website. So we have an app, it just, sometimes I've heard through the grapevine that it just crashes a lot, so you can try the website at radiolex.us. Usually has a pretty good signal. Let's see. And if you ever wonder why I sit in the studio in silence, I have to do that because when I have the Facebook Live going and there's music playing, if I keep it on too long, it will just knock me off the Facebook Live because Facebook doesn't like that. What's up, Wade? Hope you're doing well. AT&T time. Yes. Wait, I'm drinking my McDonald's just for you, my friend. We got about 20 seconds. Wait, I'm curious. Do you watch the show or do you listen on the app? Or do you just kind of do both? Not surprised about the Mickey D's, huh? All right, here we go.
Hi, I'm Natalia from Natalia's Pastry Shop, located in the Julieta Market at Gray Line Station, on the corner of Laura and Lime. You are listening to Radio Lex, the voice of the people.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of Lexington Community Radio or its board of directors. The views expressed are solely those of the programmers.
You are listening to Off the Cuff. Now, here's your host, Adam Banks.
Welcome everybody to Off the Cuff. I am Adam Banks coming at you live from Lexington, Kentucky. Thank you for listening to the show, and thank you for tuning in to WLXU 93.9 FM. In addition to listening on the radio, you can check out our Facebook live stream at Off the Cuff with Adam Banks, or you can download the Radio Lex app on your smartphone device, or stream the show live from the website at radiolex.us. I am broadcasting from the Deborah Hensley Studios here at Radio Lex on North Limestone. It is May the 18th, 2023, 4:01 to be exact. It's always good to see familiar faces on the Facebook live stream. You guys have no idea how much I appreciate it, all the loyal listeners. I just want to start off the show by saying thank you. It's always nice to know that you, even if you think nobody's listening, you can always count on those certain few to tune in to listen to the show. But if you are tuning in today, you are tuning in for a very good show. I'm excited for today's show. We've got a great show ahead. Last week, we started off the show talking about the best sequels that ever existed and sequels that really outdone the original. Sequels that done better than the original. And there were a few that I named, and there were a couple of you guys that chimed in on the show thread. And it made me start thinking of kind of that same topic, but with television shows. See, in television, you don't really have sequels. You have what you call spin-offs. And a spin-off is basically when they take a TV show and they take a character from that TV show and they spin it off. They make another show, they create a whole new cast, they create whole new storylines for a particular show. And we all have probably watched a few spin-offs in our lifetime, and that's what I would like to start off the show talking about. The best TV spin-offs that were better than the predecessors. Spin-off shows has become a phenomenon in the entertainment industry for many, many years. And it makes sense. They like to capitalize off the success of the original television show. So I started thinking about what are some of the best spin-offs that ever existed. Now, I'm currently watching on Netflix Better Call Saul. And that is a spin-off of Breaking Bad. Arguably the greatest show that ever existed. 10 out of 10. Now, I only give two shows 10 out of 10 in my whole lifetime of watching TV shows, and that is Breaking Bad, and now the spinoff of Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. But by a little bit of a margin, I think that Better Call Saul is a better show than Breaking Bad. And I know I can't be the only one out there that thinks that. It's such a well-developed show. The character development in Better Call Saul is outstanding. The cinematography, the acting, the directing, the producing, the suspense, the story development in general is just better overall. And it's the best TV show I think that ever existed. And it's hard to believe that something like that could beat out a show like Breaking Bad, but it did. It actually beat out its predecessor. And that's a hard thing to do when you have such a good show like Breaking Bad. But Better Call Saul actually does that. So on my list first that I have compiled of TV spinoffs that outdone their predecessor is Better Call Saul. And if you haven't checked that out, folks, I would 100% recommend that. That is on Netflix right now, and it is streaming all seasons, the 6 seasons. Now, in this list that I have created, you're going to be surprised, maybe, to hear that some of these popular TV sitcom spinoffs that you probably didn't even know was a spinoff. Did you know that The Simpsons was a TV spinoff? So, The Simpsons was a spinoff from a show called The Tracy Ullman Show. The Tracy Ullman Show was an animated TV show that featured Homer Simpson and a few characters off of there, and they decided to make a whole show about the Simpson family. So believe it or not, The Simpsons is a spinoff show, and I think that The Simpsons is a spinoff that outdone its predecessor. And that's what I'm talking about. TV spinoffs that outdone their predecessor. Frasier is another TV spinoff that I feel like outdone its predecessor. Frasier was a sitcom from, or was a spinoff from the TV sitcom Cheers. Now, we talked about Cheers last week. Cheers, arguably some people's favorite show of all time. It had one of the most tuned-in series finales that ever existed. But Frasier, by a large margin, I feel like outdone the original Cheers. Now, for all you Frasier fans out there, if you haven't got enough Frasier in your life, even though it lasted 11 seasons, did you know that Frasier is coming back? Yes, they're coming back with a reboot of the show. So if you like Frasier in the past, you're in luck because Frasier is coming back. I think it's actually going to be premiering in the fall for, let's see, yes, it's premiering in the fall on Netflix. So Frasier fans, get ready. Frasier is coming back. Another TV spinoff that I feel like beat out its predecessor as being better than its original show was Family Matters. Family Matters was a spinoff of Perfect Strangers. Perfect Strangers was a show that ran in the 1980s, and it established its own legacy. But many people don't know that Family Matters was a spinoff of Perfect Strangers. Harriet Winslow, who was the mom in Family Matters, was a small character in Perfect Strangers. She was the elevator operator. And they did a whole show spinning off Harriet Winslow's life. They gave Harriet a husband, Carl Winslow. They gave her 2 kids, Eddie and Laura. And then developed Steve Urkel, the iconic nerd from the 1990s. Arguably, Family Matters is one of the greatest TV sitcoms that ever existed. It certainly has one of the most famous characters that ever existed. So, Family Matters has to be on my list as a TV spinoff that outdone its original. And my next on the list, I'm going to say Teen Mom. Now, you might not know, a lot of my listeners might not know what Teen Mom is. It comes from the original show 16 and Pregnant. Teen Mom certainly outdone its original because it has more seasons, it had better casts, it had better just features, better storylines in it. So those folks, I feel like, are TV spinoffs that outdone its original predecessor. Now, there are other great spinoffs that you guys are probably wondering, why didn't you mention this? Well, keep in mind, I said that these ones that I am mentioning are the ones that I feel like outdone the original. They're better than the predecessor. But there are other great spinoffs from other TV shows, but I don't necessarily think it did better than the predecessor. Like Kenan and Kel. It was a spinoff from All That. Kenan and Kel was a great show, but I don't know if it was better than All That. The Amanda Show, starring Amanda Bynes, was a spinoff of All That, but I don't know if it was better than All That. Saved by the Bell, The College Years, was a spinoff of Saved by the Bell. Mama's Family, from the Carol Burnett Show. Now, that actually might be a show that I should have put on the list as beating out the predecessor. I feel like that Mama's Family was a better show than the Carol Burnett Show, but Mama's Family was an actual show that it was just a small skit in the Carol Burnett Show, and they took that small skit and made a whole TV sitcom out of it. The Jeffersons was an actual spinoff. Happy Days was a spinoff of Love American Style. Pinky and the Brain was a spinoff of the Animaniacs. Doria. You all remember the show Doria from MTV? Da 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 da. And she'd hold her hand out. That was a spinoff of Beavis and Butthead. Xena the Warrior Princess was a spinoff of Hercules. Now, keep in mind, some people have watched these shows and they're thinking, yes, those were better than the predecessor. But that's an opinion for you guys to have. I don't necessarily feel like that they beat out their predecessor, but I feel like that those are great spinoffs that we all can say were great, and they could be justified as being better. But TV spinoffs are great. If I left any out, please feel free to put them on the show thread, and I will talk about it. We have a lot to talk about in today's show. One of the things we're going to talk about sometime in the show is the election results, because I hope everybody got out there and voted. It was a very rainy election day, but we'll talk about that later. Maybe not in the next segment, but I definitely want to get to it sometime or the other. But ladies and gentlemen, you have it locked right here on 93.9 FM. You are listening to Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. We'll be right back.
You 93.9 LPFM, Lexington, Kentucky.
Radio Lex has the support of vinyl sponsor Ron Gray. Thanks, Ron.
Defensive driving can keep you safe, but aggressive driving is bad for you and everyone else on the road. Aggressive driving includes speeding, going too fast for road conditions, following too closely, and refusing to yield. Hi, this is Josh with State Farm, reminding you to be a good neighbor. Take it easy, slow down, and get where you're going safely.
Radiolex has the support of tailor-made decorative concrete and epoxy. TailorMadeDCE.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. A theme you are very familiar with, I'm sure, regardless if you played Super Mario Brothers or not. I'm sure that you heard this in your kid's bedroom in the 1980s, early 90s. This is the Super Mario Brothers overworld theme. I don't know if anybody's got a chance to watch the new Super Mario Brothers movie. I haven't. I can't wait to watch it. To say it's been a successful movie is an understatement. Listen here, the movie has crossed $500 million at the domestic box office, becoming one of only 19 films to ever surpass that benchmark. It opened in theaters on April the 5th and generated a towering $204 million in just the first 5 days of its release, which made it one of the biggest opening weekends of the year and the second biggest debut ever for an animated film. Now you might ask, why? It's because Mario stretches from generation to generation to generation. It started in the 80s, and then you got to think these kids are now grown that have kids, and Mario has been a staple in the Nintendo world. So it makes sense that people will go to the movies to watch this. They'll take their kids, and it's a movie that everybody can enjoy. A 50-year-old, a 35-year-old, a 25-year-old, a 15-year-old, and even a 7-year-old would love the Super Mario Brothers movie. And not only was it successful in people going out to see the movie, but I heard it's pretty good. The movie was directed by Aaron Horvath and Michael Genelick, and the voices of the movie stars Chris Pratt as Mario, Anya Taylor as the Princess Peach, and Jack Black as Bowser. It follows the Brooklyn-based plumbers known as Mario and Luigi, who are sucked into the mystical Mushroom Kingdom along with Princess Peach. They prepare to stop the mighty Bowser from total domination. So far, the movie has surpassed $1.1 billion worldwide. Unbelievable, folks. Unbelievable. So I've got to get out and watch that movie. But like I said, the music in general is iconic. Not just the video game. Arguably, Mario is one of the most famous, iconic video games of all time. I probably would put it as number one as the most iconic video game of all time. Beating out Zelda, beating out Donkey Kong, even beating out Pac-Man. Mario definitely is on the top of that list. And one of the things that makes Mario so great is the music. The Super Mario Brothers theme, officially known as the ground theme or overworld theme that I'm playing right now, is heard in the first stage of the 1985 original NES game system. It was one of 6 themes composed for the game by Nintendo sound designer Kojiro Kondo. Think about this. This Japanese man, Kojiro Kondo, created this music that lives on. This music that you're hearing now was created by one man, and he created all of the themes on the original Mario. In 2023, the Super Mario Brothers theme was chosen by the U.S. Library of Congress as the first ever video game recording selection for inclusion in the National Recording Registry. So there's so many themes that's in the original Mario that I'm sure the audience will recognize, like this one. Not only do you have this theme, you also have this in the video game. This is called the Underworld theme. Everybody's listening at home is like, yes, I remember this. This is played when Mario goes into the little green tube, and this is actually the theme where everybody pretty much cheats and goes and finds a warp zone so they can skip levels. Not only do you have that theme, you have this, the underwater theme. And this theme is played when Mario is swimming, or Mario has to do a water level. Of the 6 tracks of the Super Mario Bros. Soundtrack, these themes took the most time to develop, according to its composer Koji Kondo. He stated that he would write one piece and then the team would put it in the game. If it did not insinuate the action, or it did not time up with Mario running and jumping, or it did not harmonize with the sound effects well enough, he would scrap it. He composed the music using only a small keyboard. This guy needs to be conducted in the Music Hall of Fame. All right, not only do you have the underwater theme, you also have the castle theme. This is the theme that's played when Mario goes into Bowser's castle. You can tell it's much more intense than the other themes that I've played, because you know the whole time this level is a very scary and dangerous level. Then you've got the Starman theme. This is when Mario gets a star, and for about 10 to 15 seconds he can run through things and not die. Now, eventually Mario was so successful, the original game, they created Mario 2. And just like its original game, they came out with an iconic music suite. So here is the music from Mario 2. This is the opening of Mario 2. This is at the main menu of the game. Wow, I've not heard this in so long. Let me just shout out my sister really quick, because just hearing this music makes me think of her, because I used to sit and play this game with her for hours at a time. Okay, then you would, after you started the menu of Mario 2, you would select a character and you would hear this theme. And this is the theme that you would hear in level 1 of Mario Bros. 2. And then anytime you would go into a cave in Mario Bros. 2, you would hear this. And then anytime you would go into the dark world in Mario 2, which is kind of like the castle, you would hear this theme. Now, after Mario 2, they came out with Super Mario Brothers theme. Now, I think out of all the Marios that ever existed, Mario 3 was better than the rest. And this was the theme music for Mario Brothers 3. Level 1. Level 2. And this would be the main menu theme. This would be the Waterland theme. This would be the Giant level theme. My goodness, so many. This would be the swimming theme for Mario 3. And then, of course, Mario Brothers 3 would also have an underworld theme. and it would be this. Now keep in mind, the same man that created all the other music for Mario designed this music for all three games, Koji Kondo. This next theme would be when Mario would get to select from the three boxes. It would be this one right here. This is the battle theme for kids. This is when you would fight King Koopa in the castle. And then if you were lucky enough to beat the game, you would hear the ending theme, which would be this. Now, Mario created many, many games. After Super Mario Bros. 3, they created Super Mario World for Super Nintendo. They created Mario Kart. They created Dr. Mario. And so many other Mario spin-offs were created. But I feel like that the first three games are untouchable and unbeatable. Definitely one of the best music suites I've ever heard in my entire life. But that, folks, is the iconic Mario music from the movie. Now, I haven't seen the movie yet, but I'm sure that they will add all of these themes in the music, or in the movie. And if they know what's good for them, they will. Because, let's be honest, people are going to the movie to hear this music. I will be disappointed if they don't start off the movie with the original Mario theme. All right, folks, we're going to take another quick break. Stick with us, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back.
The Time Capsule Show. You're listening to Radio Lex, the voice of the people. WLXU 93.9 LPFM, Lexington, Kentucky.
Let's go places safely, Lexington. Are you a teenage driver? If you are, you're at risk. Teen drivers have the highest rate of fatal crashes. The number one factor of these collisions is not paying attention. Hi, I'm Johanna Reyes from Toyota, reminding you to eliminate distractions and keep your eyes on the mind on the road.
This is Renee Cobb, host of Overtones Live. Are you tired of hearing the same songs over and over across the radio dial? Radio Lex spins over 5,000 unique songs each month in English on 93.9 FM and Spanish on 95.7 FM.
Oh, thanks, Miles. I appreciate it, buddy.
From soul to hip-hop, classical to jazz.
Wait, I figured you would
salsa to
remember that.
mariachi, and Americana to good old rock and roll. It takes
It's a
great
fun
community
game.
to make
Mario
great
is...
community radio.
I actually played a little bit of it yesterday because I have one of those old NES systems.
Visit radiolex.us.
Not the original NES. I still have one of those, but it don't work. I'm talking about those little NES systems that they sell for $70, and they have games built into it. And just hearing that music just brings back so many memories.
Defensive driving can keep you safe, but aggressive driving is bad for you and everyone else on the road. Aggressive driving includes speeding, going too fast for road conditions, following too closely, and refusing to yield. Hi, this is Josh with State Farm, reminding you to be a good neighbor. Take it easy, slow down, and get where you're going safely.
Radio Lex.
Yes, I heard the movie was good too.
Final sponsor,
I just
Tanya Jackson.
haven't had time to
Thanks,
go watch
Tanya.
it yet. Eventually, though, I'm going to. Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. Wade says on the show thread that he remembers all of those tunes, and Wade's pushing, and I'm sure he don't mind me saying, he's pushing 70 years old, so I told you folks that it is a movie that people want to see, and it's a movie that everybody remembers. All right, let's get to Off the Cuff's quote of the week. This week, our quote comes from a very familiar name, Confucius. Who is Confucius? He was a Chinese philosopher and politician who is traditionally considered the paragon of the Chinese sagas. Confucius' teachings and philosophy is still a huge part of East Asian culture and society, remaining influential across China and East Asia to this day. So, you may be wondering, what did Confucius say? Well, here is Off the Cuff's quote of the week from Confucius. If you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. And I love that quote because all that quote is talking about is bettering yourself. You never want to get to a point to where you think that you know it all. There's always people out there that could teach you something. I have lived in this world for 35 years, and I can tell you I am nowhere near knowing it all. And I know people that are 70, 80 years old that will tell you the same thing. The day you stop learning is a sad day. So if you find yourself in a room where you are the smartest person in the room, guess what? You're in the wrong room. Find another room. Find a room where you aren't the smartest person. Find some place where somebody can teach you something. And I love that quote. That's why I feel like that has to be Off the Cuff's quote of the week. If you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. And with that being said, folks, let's go ahead and transition into Off the Cuff's Song of the Week with a little DJ Khaled versus SZA, Just Us, which is a great song. Stick with us. We'll be back after the song.
Another one.
Yes, challenge yourself, absolutely. You have to. Because if you don't, you'll become stale and you'll never progress. God knows I still don't know it all. this music was actually in the opening of Scream 6, which I've talked about and raved about on this show before. I couldn't wait to watch Scream 6, and I held off for so long talking about the review of Scream 6 because so many people usually get mad at me because they say that I spoil movies for them. Well, if you haven't seen Scream 6 by now, you're probably not going to watch it. So I, right now, would like to review, finally, after all of this time, I would like to review what I thought of the movie Scream 6, the sixth installment of what I feel like is the best horror film of all time. Spoiler alert, though. I am going to be spoiling things about the movie, so if you don't really want to hear it for the next 5-6 minutes, you probably want to turn the show off and then flip it back on in about 5 or 6 minutes, because that's what I'm going to talk about right now. I thought Scream 6 was amazing. I thought that it ranks right up there in the top 3 of the 6 movies. The original, I feel like, is still number 1. Number 2 is right there as being the best number 2. And then number 6, Scream 6, is right there as the top 3. Scream 6 was great. Such a good movie. Now, what I liked, there were so many things that I liked about Scream 6, but one of the things that I liked about it was that the 2 Ghostface killers, who everybody knows that there's always usually 2 Ghostface killers, and they do an opening kill at the beginning of a movie. This movie was different. In the opening, the 2 Ghostface killers get killed themselves in the opening. Somebody kills them. So who you think the 2 Ghostface killers are in the opening of the film, oh, you're wrong. They start out being the Ghostface killers, but they get killed. So it threw everybody for a loop. Now, Neve Campbell, the main character from the original Scream movies, she's not in this one. But Gale Weathers holds her own as the leading legacy character. I love Gale Weathers in this movie. Now, dare I say that Gale Weathers is the star of Scream? I don't know, maybe not. Maybe Sidney Prescott still is the star. She is the leading lady. But she wasn't in this last one. And now Courtney Cox, who plays Gale Weathers, is the only character who has appeared in all 6 Scream movies. There's a ton of Easter eggs in Scream 6. Gale gets slapped, which is an homage to the original. And what an Easter egg is homages to the original film. They kind of wink at the audience, and they throw little Easter eggs, little things in there that remind you of the first one. So Gale gets slapped in the 6th one. The costumes on the subway train, the scene where on the subway train you can see iconic horror movie costumes like Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, Leatherface, all kinds. The Ghostface Shrine, where you have all the Ghostface outfits worn by all the previous Ghostface killers, was pretty cool. Also in the shrine you see Tatum's outfit, which is Sidney's best friend. You see the rope that was used to hang Casey Becker at the beginning of the original movie. You see also in the shrine in Scream 6, you see Casey Becker's boyfriend's Letterman jacket that he wore in the original movie. Now remember, Casey Becker was not the original person to get killed in Scream 1 like most people think. Her boyfriend got killed before her. So he was the first victim in Scream. You also see in the shrine, you see cameraman Kenny's hat, who was Gale Weathers' cameraman in the first one. You see Randy's video store work uniform. And you also see Stu's robe that he wore at the party in Scream 1 in this shrine. So there's all kinds of things. You also see the TV that dropped on Stu's head. When Sidney threw the TV on his head, you see the busted out TV, which was great. You see all of Gale Weathers' original books in there. You see pictures of Dewey. You see the clothing of Billy Loomis's killer mom, Debbie Salt. It makes an appearance in there. You also see a fax machine that belonged to Jennifer Jolie in Scream 3 in the Shrine. Remember the part in the movie where, I think this is Scream 3, where the fax machine is, the killer is faxing letters to everybody. And you see that fax machine pop up in Scream 6. You also see bloody knives that were used to kill people in the original movie. And also you see Kirby's knife that stabbed her, Hayda Panettiere. You see all kinds of things. So I think that the best killing of the franchise, hands down, is Casey Becker. I don't think they've yet to top that. That was the Drew Barrymore kill right at the beginning. What I think made that so iconic was they promoted Drew Barrymore being the star of Scream, and then right at the beginning of Scream, they killed her off. So it's such a pop culture fascination. I think that Scream definitely outdid itself with Scream 6. It's a very meta movie, a movie talking about itself. And the only thing that I did not like about Scream 6 was the redundancy of it. I feel like that at the end of the movie, when they revealed the killer, which was family members of the killer of Scream 5, wanting good old-fashioned revenge, I feel like that was redundant. I don't feel like motives should be repeated. So I was a little upset when I noticed that they were repeating the motive on Scream 6. I wasn't a big fan of it. But Scream 6, great movie. It is now available for purchase for streaming, and eventually I think the movie's coming to HBO Max very, very soon. It's already available on Paramount, but it's coming to HBO Max very, very soon, and it's also available on DVD if people still buy those. But Scream 6, great movie. And you might be wondering, why did you wait so long to review it? Well, I didn't want to spoil things for you. It's been over a month. Over 2 months, as a matter of fact. Well, over a month and a half since the movie came out, so I don't really consider that a spoiler. All right, ladies and gentlemen, stick with us. We still have one more segment to go. We'll be right back.
Radio Lex has the support of corner sponsor, Bluegrass Community Foundation, bgcf.org.
Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. Last segment of the hour. The primary election here in Kentucky was this past Tuesday with a record low turnout, meaning nobody went out to vote. Now, some people can blame that on the weather. We did have some stormy weather on that Tuesday, but I still made it out to the polls. It's very important. Everybody wants to complain about who wins and who's in office, but those same people complaining are the same ones that do not go out and vote. I don't understand that. If you want to make a difference, go out and vote. And I'll go as far as saying, if you do not vote, you have no right to complain about the politician because you didn't contribute that day to society. Now, the election that everybody had an eye on was, of course, the governor election. Andy Beshear, who is the incumbent, who is the current governor of Kentucky, won by a landslide. I don't understand why these people thought they could run and beat him. Andy Beshear got 176,528 votes. His opponents, Jeffrey Young, received 9,864, and Pepe Martin received 6,911. That means that Andy Beshear won by a whopping 95% of the vote, 96% of the vote. That is huge. I don't know if that's ever been that high in a primary. Now, a lot of people may not know this, but Andy Beshear is the most popular Democratic governor in the United States. You may ask, how is that? Well, you got to look at how he's handled things over the last 4 years of his governor. He is probably the most experienced governor we've ever had just in the last 4 years because of the things that he's had to deal with. He's dealt with a global pandemic. He's dealt with many natural disasters in this state, including the tornado in western Kentucky and the flood in eastern Kentucky. And the way he handled that was with class and was with speed and it was great. He was very passionate and nice, compassionate, I should say, and nice to everyone that he come in contact with. He made sure that the correct paperwork was filled out. He did it efficiently and fast. So it's understandable why he would be so popular. And I've said this before, he reminds me of a third grade middle school teacher or a third grade elementary school teacher. All right, boys, don't throw those paper wads. Just sit down or you're going to get punished. He really don't get above a whisper. And he has that demeanor about him that I think people like. And yes, he got a lot of flack over the pandemic for shutting down the churches. I think that's the biggest flaw that I've heard amongst Kentuckians. They didn't like the way he handled the shutting down of churches. But a lot of governors across the United States did the same thing. Nobody knew exactly how bad this pandemic was. They didn't have any idea how bad the COVID-19 disease was. When people got it, several people passed away. Essentially, healthy people who got it, who never showed signs of health issues. They got COVID and they died. So it did scare a lot of people. So just to be on the safe side, he did shut things down. Now, I'm not condoning and saying that he did everything right during the pandemic. I'm not. There are some things that I probably would have done differently. But hindsight is 2020. I bet if I was interviewing Andy Beshear right now and I was to ask him, would you have done anything differently? I bet he would say yes. It would be interesting. Hopefully I can get him on the show to ask him sometime this year in 2023. I would love to talk to Andy. But it makes sense that he won by such a landslide in the primary election. These people, Jeffrey Young, Pepe Martin, I hope that you did not spend a lot of money on this election because you wasted it. You wasted your money thinking you were going to beat the most popular Democratic governor in the country. You wasn't certainly going to beat him in the state. So Andy Beshear secured the Democratic nominee and will run again in November for governor. And his opponent will be none other than Daniel Cameron, the first African-American candidate running for governor that won the primary in the history of Kentucky. That shows progress in this state. A lot of people think that Kentucky would not be a state to elect a black governor. But he won the primary. I think this election is going to be very close. Now, the Republican primary election was, well, I don't want to say it was close, because here's the numbers. Daniel Cameron had a total of 1,444,000 votes. I butchered that. 144,496 votes. Ryan Quarles came in second with a little bit of a surprise. A lot of people thought Kelly Craft would come in second. Ryan Quarles, the current agricultural man in office, agricultural commissioner, he had a total of 65,679,000 votes. And Kelly Craft, who ultra-rich Kelly Craft, people would like to call her, the wife of Joe Craft, had a whopping 52,139. Now, she spent a ton of money on this election. Granted, this was her own money, but could you imagine spending $10, $11 million and losing? I wonder who had a worse day, Kelly or her husband Joe, because we know that Joe, who is a billionaire, funded her election. And a lot of people said that Kelly was trying to buy the governor's mansion, and clearly it goes to show you that money can't buy you everything, because Kelly Craft had more money than these candidates combined. She had more money than the Democratic candidates, the Republican candidates combined. I'll go as far as saying she had more money than every candidate that run in the city of Lexington combined. Her husband, Joe Craft, is a billionaire, but due to all the money that she used, she still did not win her primary election. So I was a little stunned by that. I really thought that Kelly Craft and Daniel Cameron would be head-to-head in this battle. And Daniel Cameron came out on top, which tells me that this state is progressing forward as far as who they put in office. It's going to be a close race. It will be very close. Secretary of State, the Republican Michael Adams had 171,270. Stephen Nipper had 70,978. Alan Miracle, 25,766. So Michael Adams won that. The auditor for the Republican ticket, Allison Ball, won 190,651. Derek Petsy, 72,574. Jonathan Shell, 148,139. Richard Heath, 114,258. Excuse me, Richard Heath, and that was for Agricultural Commissioner. Let's see, Agricultural Commissioner Democrat Sierra Inlow had 103,191. Michael Malone had 72,461. The Treasurer, Republican Mark McClaff, 135,378. Andrew Copperwriter, 77,339. O.J. Oleka with 51,549. The State Senate District 28, which is here in Fayette County, Greg Elkins, Republican, 7,899. Robert Sente won the Democratic ticket with 4,968, and then Richard Henderson got 3,001 vote for the Independent. Attorney General, Republican, ran unopposed, Russell Coleman. Pamela Stevenson ran unopposed for Democrat for the auditor. And Kimberly Reeder ran unopposed for Secretary of State, the Democratic ticket. And Charles Wheatley, Democrat, ran unopposed for the treasurer. And Michael Bowman also ran unopposed. Oh, that was for the treasurer. Secretary of State was Charles Wheatley. And treasurer was Michael Bowman, ran unopposed. And that, folks, is your primary election results. So I don't know what you owe this to. I don't know if you owe the lack of turnout for people for the election results going the way it did. If everybody was to show up at the polls, maybe you would have got a different result. That's why it's so important to go out and vote. A lot of people think that their vote doesn't matter, but it does. So let's take a listen at Daniel Cameron, who is now your new Republican candidate for governor who will go against Andy Beshear this fall. Take a listen. Let me stop it there for just a second. Thank you to Donald J. Trump. He is pushing that heavy, isn't he? He's really just harping on having the endorsement of Donald Trump. I just don't understand the fact that he wants to keep throwing that out there. Okay, we get it. He endorsed you. But does that mean you're Trump 2.0? Does that mean that you're going to be Donald Trump? No, Trump is Trump and you are you. And I don't understand candidates thinking that they can manipulate voters into voting for them just because they have an endorsement of somebody else. Do you think we're stupid? Because I'll tell you one thing, I'm not going to vote for somebody based off an endorsement. And I know that there are other voters out there that will do the same. They won't do, they will not, they do not care that Donald Trump endorsed you. And yes, I do know the overwhelming support that Donald Trump has in this state. I do know that. And I understand that. But I feel like that he's harping on it a little too hard. Almost like he's treating us like idiots. Like he thinks that just by saying that, we're going to go out and vote for him. No, you need to run on something a little bit different. All right, and let's go ahead and take a listen to Andy Bashir's victory speech that he made after he was declared the winner. Take a listen. Just hearing him say that gives me PTSD a little bit. Hearing him say, we are in this together. Gosh, because we heard that so much in 2020. So folks, it's going to be an interesting election come this November, and who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? But that's why it's so important to get out and vote, folks, because your vote does matter. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that about wraps it up for today's episode of Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. If you like what you heard today, you'll probably like our previous episodes. So check us out on podcasts. We're on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, or wherever you stream your favorite podcast. You can follow the show on social media at Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. You can follow me, the host, on social media at The Adam Banks. We release new episodes every Thursday from 4 to 5 right here on WLXU 93.9 FM, which means we'll be back next Thursday. Same time, same place. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Adam Banks, and this is Off the Cuff. We'll catch you down the road.